Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. This is a special edition of Who Will Be the Biggest Flop, with breaking news straight from the donkey cart. It turns out that Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios have been lying about the production budget for The Flash. Buried in an article from The Hollywood Reporter that was posted on August 17th, they reported that the production budget for The Flash is actually $300 million, not the $220 million that had been previously reported. So for the past few months, whenever I was providing estimated break-even points for The Flash, including in my latest episode of Who Will Be the Biggest Flop that I had released yesterday, they have been based on the previously reported $220 million production budget. And when I multiplied that $220 million production budget by 2.5 and 3.0 to estimate the movie's break-even point range, by taking into account the 50% of gross ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that the studio pays above and beyond the production budget, that estimated break-even point range for The Flash came out to values of $550 million to $660 million. But with this updated production budget of $300 million, that estimated break-even point range is actually closer to $750 million to $900 million, which is $200 million to $240 million higher than the range that I had been using. So what does this mean in terms of how much money have Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios lost on The Flash? Given that the movie only earned $268.5 million in global gross box office revenue, using that estimated break-even point range that was based on the previously reported $220 million production budget that Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios had lied about, that came out to a loss of around $281.5 million to $391.5 million in global gross box office revenue. And when we divide that range by 2, it works out to an estimated loss for Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios of $140.8 million to $195.8 million. But guess what, folks? Using the estimated break-even point range that's based on the newly reported $300 million production budget for the movie, that means that The Flash lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $481.5 million to $631.5 million in global gross box office revenue, which, when we divide that by 2, works out to an estimated loss for Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios of $240.8 million to $315.8 million. And yes, you heard me right. That is a massive loss. No wonder Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios didn't want that significantly higher production budget number to go public. They spent as much producing The Flash as they spent producing 2017's Justice League, which also flopped back then, but nowhere near as badly as The Flash flopped. How embarrassing for David Zaslav, James Gunn, and Peter Safran. And what does this mean for who will be the biggest flop? The Flash is actually in first place instead of Indiana Jones and the Dildo of Destruction, which is actually in second place. And The Flash has actually been in first place all along. No wonder Warner Bros. Discovery and DC Studios had tried so hard to lie about the production budget to conceal just how truly awful The Flash actually performed. But guess what? The horrible truth about The Flash is out for all the world to see, and there's no hiding it again in Pandora's box. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.